Okay, this year I decided to make a beehive from scratch. As you can see, I've made a National Hive, and I made every single part of this from rough sawn boards and a few bits of metal. So we've got the tin roof and the Varroa Mesh floor. Everything else I've made myself, and I've really enjoyed it. It isn't profitable to make your own, but it is really good fun. And sometimes if you just want to make one or two bits, it's really worth it then, especially if you've got the timber. So this video is going through the whole thing. First off, we made an open Varroa Mesh floor. So I've bought some rather nice quality stainless steel Varroa Mesh. So I'm going to make some floors for it. What I've got is some Scandinavian redwood, what I use all the time, and this is some 9x1 boards that have got some splits down the middle, so no good for what I normally use them for. I'm going to plane these down to 22mm thick or thereabouts, and then I'm going to rip them down to make up the different sizes, and we're going to put a slot in them for the mesh to slot into, and have some little stays in there so that we can put a board in where we want to do inspections and things like that. Dead simple to make. So let's plane this down to 22mm and go from there. Right, so there we go, we've got some nice planed up boards, but you can see why I haven't used them for anything else, and not in their 9x1 form. So I'm going to rip these down now to about 65mm, and that's the size of our frame's going to be around the outside, so we need two at 460, 65mm. I've planed up here more than I need. I'm going to try and make probably 3 floors out of this. So yeah, I ripped them down at 65mm, and then we can put a slot in it, which is going to be a little bit naughty because we're going to take the riving knife out of the table saw. So from the wood I've planed, I'm trying to get 6 lengths out of this for 3 bases. And one day I'm going to get my dust extraction sorted. I've got to move pipes about the place. Okay, in the name of health and safety, I recommend you don't do this. But I'm going to take the riving knife off my saw so that I can cut a slot, not very deep, in my piece of wood. If I had a narrow router bit, I could do it that way as well. Potentially better, potentially safer. The Americans are probably wondering why I'm making such a fuss, because none of them have riving knives anyway. I do like a riving knife on my saw though. Obviously make sure the machine's turned off at the wall. We've all watched Final Destination. We'd know what would happen. Where's my boards? So, I have to decide how far in we want this to go. Say about halfway. Just under halfway. Right, so it there. It wants to be about 22mm, I reckon. I think that's what the other one was. Until the start of the cut. Easy enough to do. Yeah, this fence is fairly accurate. We use push sticks, we keep our hands away from the blades. You don't copy this, you don't blame me. Do it your own way. cross cut them to length. Oh, the pencil. Right, to complete the frame, what we need now is we need a piece of wood that goes from the bottom of this groove down to there, and that makes the front, because then we have a detachable entrance, and on the back we need a piece of wood that goes from the bottom of the groove to there, and that's what kind of holds it together. So it's not much to a base, but we'll cut that piece first, see if we've got enough wood. I think I might have to rip something else down, but it doesn't matter. That's 40 mil. 40 mil. So I need one at 40 mil, one at 22 mil. Those other pieces need to make up 460 less the width of this. So all I do is I hold, I'll show you, play cheats way rather than doing any maths, hold that over there, get it to 460 there, and I can see what I need is 417. 417, easy. And when you buy these bases, they normally just come with some nails. We're going to use some screws. We'll use some 4x50s. And what we will do, we will pilot and countersink at the same time using one of these bits. You know what? We'll add a bit of glue as well. Belt and braces doesn't hurt, does it? Then on the other side, so imagine that's the bottom, that's going to go across the top for this one. Put one of the thinner ones. Of course, check for square, squarish. That's what we like, isn't it? Yep. There we go. So, do this to the other frames now. Nearly there. Okay, you need to cut it along that line now to get this mesh in. Not sure what this will cut like. Might be where I regret not buying galvanised. Nicely cut. Right, so I'm just going to put a couple of staples in this. So on the entrance side, try and keep it flat. That's a bit. I mean, they can be prized out, not very deep ones. Then on the back, so just flip it upside down. We'll put a few on there as well. There we go. All we need to do now is make an entrance block. I'll finish these other two off. Okay, so we've got ourselves some entrance blocks cut. Now I need to cut a notch in them for the bees to get in and out. And I cut this about 120 mil by about 9 mil on there, which I think will be about right. Okay, so we've got a few little bits left to finish now. Really easy bits. So on here, what we're going to want, I'm not going to cut the ply now, we'll wait until I actually need to put it on. I'm going to put these little strips, you can see that, on there, and that means that we can put a ply board in when we want to do a mite check, maybe a plastic board, depends what I can find. So I'm not going to cut ply up for these at the moment, I'm just going to leave them as they are. And I'm just going to pin them with some staples. And they're just 15mm by about 6mm. Now what I could use as an alternative to these, and what you do quite often get, is a frame runner like that, and they're about 80p. That's probably nothing, is it? So I know it's not a huge saving, but it's a few pence, isn't it? And I don't think there's much advantage of using one of those to using this. Honestly, down to the last job. So we want a few panel pins. Because what you get is when you put your entry block in, you've got it all stacked up. You can push your entry block in if you want to change the size of it or whatever, change what it is. You push it in and it can just go back, and that's quite annoying. So what I always do, or what I have done so far, I know I'm new into this, but I was told to do it, is put a panel pin about there, stop it pushing back anymore, and the same on the other side, so it only push back up to there, and I think that's quite a good thing to do. Doesn't take many seconds now, it's a bit of a pain when you've got bees flying around everywhere, so we will do it. So put that there, mark a spot, doesn't have to go in very far, there we go, perfect. And we'll do the same on the other side. There we go. Now we'll push the entry block in. It goes against those nails. Doesn't go back any further, and it's easy enough to hook out the way when you want to. Okay, so there we go. We have got a completed floor for a National Hive entrance block that's removable. We've got our mesh screen, and we've got the way to put in a ply or plastic inspection board. We've got a Varroa Mesh floor, and that's about, I don't know, 7 or 8 quid a sheet, I suppose. Maybe cheaper if you buy in bulk. But yeah, the only thing I need to do with this now is I'll need to paint it. And what I'm going to do, because this is not cedar, it is Scandinavian redwood, but I'm going to paint this with proper, pure linseed oil paint, which is quite expensive, but it's way better than a lot of the modern paints, and it doesn't take much to kind of redo it, and it will make wood last a lot longer. So a little bit of investment in the paint and the painting process should pay off a lot more. I'm going to paint these hives some different colours as well. So of all the things you're going to make and save yourself money, I'd say the open Varroa Mesh floor is probably the one that's going to save you the money. Some of this stuff is cheaper to actually buy it than to build it yourself, even if you had the timber pretty much for nothing. So the open Varroa Mesh floor is one place you're going to save some money. The next bit that I made was the brood box. Now this is where the queen lays her eggs, and you know, this is the kind of the heart of your beehive and what you want to kind of keep really good. You want it to be full of bees, you want it to be full of bees at the end of the season as well. The brood box is quite a tricky piece to make. Especially on a National Hive like this, there's lots of joints, there's lots of bits and pieces to it, and it's surprising how long it takes to make. For our brood boxes, they want to be about 225, so just under 9 inches, which these boards are going to do, just about. So each one is 460 square, so that's going to be, I'm going to split it down into metre lengths probably. So each metre will give us 1/2 of a brood box. So I'm going to need 2 metres per box, I'm going to need 6 metres worth of timber. It's going to be a couple of lengths of this, I think, basically. I want to go for relatively nice clean boards. I can use some of the more resinous stuff, but I don't like sanding up so much for my other things. How much have we got here? Okay, so we've got lengths in here now, we can mess about with some lengths. Always trying to get stuff short enough to actually use in my workshop. So, on the ends you quite often get some splits, so if you have a look, you might not see it. There's a bit of a split there, and a bit of a split there, and a bit of a split there. So we're going to cut off, when we're measuring up, we'll mark off a bit like that. Just in case, and then we've got 460s, haven't we, I said, so if we do it 460, 5 foot piece will give us 3 pieces. So now I just need enough then to make up the 3 brood boxes that I want to make. So I'll measure this up. So these boards need planing down to 18 mil, and they got the 225 or just over, which will plane down as well afterwards, or rip down. A few of these boards got a few splits in, unfortunately. The risk with bigger, wider boards. So what I've done is I've got an extra piece, and I'm going to run that through as well, because nothing worse than getting towards the end and thinking, I'm one piece short and it's split and I don't want to use it. So I'd rather have some extra for the cost of it. So each one of these boards is probably costing me about 9 quid actually. So a brood box is going to be about 12 quid in timber, maybe a bit more with the struts in there and the rails. So probably actually with the rails as well, probably about 15 quid in timber each brood box. So when you look at buying stuff from the seconds and things like that, then it's going to be cheaper to buy it. But there is a satisfaction to be made on making it yourself. Okay, so now I am going to cross-cut some of these to 460. So I need 6 of these to make 3 brood boxes. Probably easier to make more, to be honest with you, in one go, but I'm only just getting into it, don't want to be too ready. Sure I could sell my excess anyway, so. Okay, so I'm going to do this to 18 mil thick. So an 18 mil router bit. And this is to make the rebate, which will be on every piece. So this is the 2 end pieces, and this piece is going to sit into it. I'll leave that running. But just before I start routing, I've got this super here, and I measured from there to the inside of that rebate. It's about 44 mil. So I'm going to set it up now onto the scrap piece and see how it cuts. And as long as it gives me the inside measurement that I'm looking for, which is 371. So as long as I get that, then I can route them all. Okay, with a rebate about 3 mil deep on each of them, we can now work out what we need to get 460 outside to outside. So I'm going to have to cut that 429. So if I cut 6 of those at 429, that's the main pieces cut. Right, next thing is to rip down the side pieces. So we're going to have the strengthening bars in there as well. What we've got, I'm going to use some frame runners for these. And what we need to work out is how thick this needs to be. So, as you can see on this one, so we've got this is a super, admittedly, but you can see when it's sat on the frame runners, right? That's flush. So when you get your Hive tool in there, you can slide it all the way across and break the seal, and you're not having to dip down or up, and the bees can't properlize it too much. Yeah? So that's flush at the top. And at the bottom, I just grab just grab a ruler. At the bottom, so we've got this, it's hard to show on camera. Imagine it's on that side, look, you can see it there. And then I think this gap here between the bottom and that is meant to be 9 millimeters, which it is, okay? So that's quite easy in a way to work out for us now, because what we can do, and that gives the appropriate like bee space and stuff. We've got my frame runners there. We'll slip that on the top, and then that can just go in there now. Oh, it's a little bit tight. In there until it's flush, right? And that is about perfect. I can feel that's flush there. Yep. And then all we have to do with our tape measure, butterfinger. So all we have to do then is measure up from the bottom here, 9 millimeters. Nice sharp pencil. 9 mil. And we'll transfer that line across. And we can see what we're left with between there and there. On this one and with these size frame runners. So it might be different with your frame runners, or if you're going to do it with the sloping one like I have done on a previous video to making a super out of reclaimed timber, you might want it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller. So you have to kind of account for it that way. But with the frame runners I've got, it's looking like it wants to be 2002. So I'm going to rip these down at 200. No, I'm not. 202. Otherwise that'd be really long, wouldn't it? It'd be 2 meters. 202. So I'll rip these down now. That is a job done. And then we can look at doing the strengthening bars and the tenons and mortises for them. Next bit comes these strengthening bars, which are a little bit of a pain to make and joint, because I'm going to have to do some of it by hand because I haven't got a mortiser at the moment. But these measure, I think, about 44, that's probably 44 before it's cut down, 44 by whatever we've got left between the edge of this rebate and the edge of there. So it's going to be about 25, I reckon. Okay, 26. So I'm going to get some timber for that now. I'm going to rip some extra ones of these down because we're going to make some supers as well. So at least I've got those bars done for the supers when it comes time. Right, so a bit of stock rotation here. This one's been in the other shed for quite a while. Still Scandinavian redwood, still a nice piece of timber, but just wants a bit more planing off it. This is 32mm thick. We need to get it down to 26 or 26 and a half. And I'm going to divide it up now into metre lengths, which will give me the two. You get 2 lots out of each one, and I'm going to rip it down to 50mm, and then we'll surface it and plane it for this. And I'm doing extra, like I said, so I'm going to get 4 rips out of each one of these, but I don't think it's going to bother me having extra ones of these sat around, really. So you need to cut over to plane it down. Okay, so the next bit is we're going to have to make the joints for the rails to sit into on the longboards. This is an offcut, but I'm just using just to get it kind of set somewhere near. I'm going to use a router table with this sliding mitre gauge on here. Just going to hold it, and it's going to go through there. And you see I've made 2 cuts on this piece already. And what I'll do is I'll do it in 2 stages. So that'll cut the first half, then the next half will go up to this housing joint here. Okay, and we'll do that on all of them, and it's a case of doing it from one side, flipping it around, and from the other, over, over. So all 4 of those will be in the same place, just to make it easier. Okay, now with these bits cut, what we can do is we can lower the bit down, so it's going to be the same height as that. We can set the fence so it's going to be just out to there, so it won't go any further, and then we can cut the one side of these tenons. So I've got one side off, take the other side off to form the tenon. So I'm just altering the height of this now. And I'll just make a few adjustments. That's what we're trying to get. That's gone really nice. So I'll just do all the rest of those. I've done enough for the supers as well. Right, honestly, making a National frame is a bit of a pain because of these blinking support rails. They do make it quite tricky. So, we've got our tenons cut on the end. Now, what we need to do, so if we have a look at this super I've got here, we need to cut these rebates on these ones, smaller. And then we've got to cut a slope on one of them. It seems like, I mean, it's great if you're making thousands, isn't it? You know, it doesn't matter. I'm making 6. With 3 supers, bit of a pain. Imagine this is going to go here, so we're going to need to take out this section of wood here. We can do that on the router table again. That router table was pulling a little bit when I was doing these, and it's because I'm using a bit that you don't ever want to take off more than half the diameter of what you're doing. And I was using the whole bit, which is bad practice really. I've got a much bigger router bit, and that's what I should have had in there. So next time I do some, I'll do that. Square there, and we can just mark one up. Sometimes that's the easiest way with a rebate, just so that you're not doing it wrong. So easy to get confused. Use the old, oops, make a mess trick. So take that line down there. So we can hold that against the thing there, and then how deep does it want to be? Take it off 12mm that way, and we're going to take off, it's going to be 16mm deep. So 16mm deep. I have to admit, I'm loving this Incra lift. I don't think I could have done this with my old router table. It would have taken me all day by the time I adjusted everything. And we might as well use these as well. Some nice little hold downs. Okay, we're tantalisingly close to having it there. So I'm going to set this to about 15 degrees to fetch the rain off the strengthening bar. So it's keeping the rebate against the fence. We'll put a slope on there. Two sides, so we've got the 2 different size rebates, which means then it's not going to stick together quite so much with the propolis, and your hive tool will be able to crack any seal you need to. And what I've done is I've put one together here, just roughly, and actually I did have to redo some of the top rebates actually for the top pieces, because they were just a little bit tight, because what you want is a frame, I know this is a super frame, not a brood one, that doesn't matter, same width. You want it to go in quite easy and have a little bit of play. Nothing wants to be super tight. And before it was just a bit too tight, and I thought, it's not what I want to be messing around with, especially got bees buzzing around. So there we go, we got that sorted. Now I need to get some glue on this and get this pinned together. When I first bought these, I wasn't quite sure how to assemble them. So I was putting those side pieces in first, down, and then putting the rails on afterwards. I find it easier actually to do these rails, so put it together like this with glue, pin it, and then put the side pieces in, and then you can kind of mess about getting it just the perfect height with your frame runners on. So let's get a brood box together. Okay, before we put the side pieces on, oops, got too many in there. Let's put on our frame runners. Just have them in a bit. These have already come pre-holed, but the holes are too big for any nails I've got. They go through nicely. There we go, so we've got a frame runner on that one. Remember to add a bit of glue down the housing joint. Potentially these are a little tight on the housing. Oh, they're alright. Then we need a frame. I'll just knock it down so they're nice and flush. Maybe put some pins down there now. So there we go, we've got a few brood boxes made in the National. So these are just your brood boxes and where your queen is going to lay her eggs and your bees are going to kind of breed from. So probably the most important part of the hive. It goes nicely with the floor that we've just made. So the brood box is very, very similar to making a super. And what I did was when I was making the brood box, I made some parts which are kind of duplicate for the supers as well to save me time in the future. So watching this bit now is where I made the supers, but I already had the top and bottom rails. These strengthening bars here, I already had them made because they're going to be the same whatever if it's on a brood box or a super. And if I was setting up the machines for 6, I might as well set them up for 12. So what I need to make now are the bigger pieces and a super. This is a one in cedar. I'm making it in Scandinavian redwood. They are 150mm top to bottom, 18mm thick. So we'll go get some timber for that now. We'll rip it down and we'll plane it up. So I've got these quite nice boards. Gonna split it up so I can actually work it in my little workshop. So I'm gonna cut these down to about 1.5 each. And that works with what lengths I've got. And that gives me 3 pieces for each one. 1.5, that works. I'm just ripping this down 155 so we can plane off a little bit. Next, got to plane it down to 18mm. So just going to use the thicknesser for this, be a bit lazy. so next stage is to set the router table. I've got the 18mm bit set in there. And if I show you a piece from the brood box, so this is what we're trying to create, only 150mm wide. So we need to create this housing first, which we'll do with this router bit in there, holding that down, running it across the top. It will take out that. Then we need to create these two joints, which the same router bit will do. It'll be raised up. We'll hold it like this with a spoil board behind to stop the tear out, and we'll run it through like that, and making sure they're the same, well, the same as these. This one really, because I've already cut the strengthening bars. It shouldn't take too long. Because we're sensible people, we'll check it on a scrap piece first. We'll set our little wheels down. Router table, safety glasses and earmuffs. Can't listen to your book if you're not wearing earmuffs, can you? Right. Okay, so it's a case of moving the fence now, raising the bit up, and we're going to cut these kind of mortises, housing joints again really. And we'll do the same again. We'll have a scrap piece of wood. What is key with this is to have a piece of wood for it to kind of splinter back about against. It will stop any tear out, because we're working onto end grain. So I'm just screwing a bit of CLS there. Use as a bit of a sacrificial piece. Where's my scrap piece gone? Let me try that there now. Just see if it's in the right place. Then we get the height right the next time. I'll put the extractor on. Not quite right, see, so I'm going to move the fence out that way a little bit. Nice and steady through it. Okay, so now we need to figure out how big the pieces are between these two rebates. I've showed you this trick before. So just going to hold it on there at 460, see what's left. And we've got, because the rebate is slightly different than last time, I've got 430. So I need to cut my other pieces now at 430. And then that's the pieces cut. We need to rip them down though. Last thing to work out with the super is we got our two pieces. This one just needs sanding up. Now these are currently roughly about the same size. So what we're going to do is we're going to mark 9mm up from the bottom. That gives us our V space, 8-9mm, somewhere around there. We can be fairly precise. Then we're going to get our frame runner, because our frames are going to sit on frame runners, just a bit easier. Could use castellated spacers as well, depends what you've got. I just bought frame runners for this. So we're going to put that in there. We're going to hold this here. We're going to set up our frame so it's flush with the top. And this will give us our size that we're going to rip it all down to. And then we're going to mark that there. And that then is what we're going to rip down all the sides on our supers to. So that is going to be 126. 126. Right, so that is all the parts cut and machined for a super. Like I said, made the rails, so we've got top rails which are rebated and flat on the bottom, and then we've got bottom rails which are slightly less rebated and sloping on the top. There's lots of plans for National Hives online, so you can use your own sizes, but it wants to be 460 square, 150. I might try and make some different types at some point. So I'm using some galvanized frame runners to go on top, and I'm just going to center those up. There are holes already in these, but they're actually too big for any nails that I've got, so I'm just going to punch a nail through. Years of experience, not hitting your fingers. Have a worse side on the inside, slightly less knots on that side. Same with this one. Okay, glue and the brush. We'll do the rails around the outside first. Do the other pieces now. Pretty quick to put together. One advantage of this type of frame. So you want glue on all mating surfaces. Fasten down for the top as well. So we do want a bit of glue in these now. Just put a little bit in, and then with the brush, smear a bit up the housing joint. Same on the other side. We use a wet rag to remove any excess afterwards. Right, this is top side. So frame runner facing on the inside each time. It's normally where I find that I need to take a fraction off it. Yeah, it's looking alright. There's going to be somewhere near the level of your rebate on the inside. Get the other one in as well before the glue goes off. So part a little bit. Right, it's looking good. So we just get a frame in, level it with the top. Perfect. Keeping it flush means that when your hive tool goes in and you scrape across to separate the seal, it'll do it nice and easily. Let's get some pins in there. There we go. One super finished. Looking quite nice. So let's make another one of those, because it's ideal to have 2 per hive at least, I'd say. Have them in reserve. Great to use as an eek, which means you can put feeders and things in there as well. So let's get that made. Do need to check for square before the glue goes off. 465. A little tiny touch. okay, square. Okay, so we've got our floor, we've got a brood box, we've got 2 supers. So the next thing goes on top of that, we're going to make a crown board, which is just a board that goes on the top layer to stop them properizing to the roof, so that we can still get a hive tool in nice and easy. Now this is quite a cheap one, made with some quite thin ply. I'd say it's probably 6mm ply, maybe thinner actually, with a bit sandwiched between 2 bits of wood. Basically, I've read that you're better off having it kind of like this, and then a 9mm piece of wood round on the one side. It doesn't have to be reversible like this one. So what I'm going to do, I've got some 18mm wood here. I'm going to rebait this. So I'm going to rip this down into thin strips. Going to cut it 460 square. Going to nail it up, but I'm going to rebait it so that some 9mm ply, a bit thicker, a tiny bit more installative value, but also just won't warp so much. I've got some 9mm ply will go in there. And what that means as well is that I haven't got the edge exposed of the ply, which is where the wet gets in. Even good quality ply these days, the wet can get in if you leave the edges exposed. So I think sinking it into that rebate will be a much better way of doing it. So I'll make a couple of these up now. You can have these holes. I'm probably going to just put the middle one in. I don't think, depends what feeders you're using. That's what it's generally for. But I think, or bee escape, but I think, you know, putting one of these in is absolutely fine for me at the moment. That's 28mm by 96, I think, between the two. So I'm going to put it on the centre line, down the middle of it. Okay, what I've got here is this bit set to about 9mm high, to allow the ply to sit in there. And then I've got it set about ½ inch back. So I'm just going to feed this through now, rebate it all, and then we can make our crown boards. Right, make some little squares up now. So far this is my deviation away from the traditional. Not very much of a deviation, it must be said. We'll just pin this together, cut a piece of ply for it. Every workshop's different. For me, the easiest way to cut cheap material like this is with my track saw. Fits in there, just nice. Before we fix it in, let's cut ourselves a hole for a porter escape, or whatever we're going to use. 460, half of 460, 230, 2. There we go, got one. Okay, finish the crown board. I'm just going to put a bit of glue around this rebate. Help seal the plywood. Holds it all together nicely. Put that in there. Some 12mm staples. Fix it down quite nicely. Flip that over. Oh, right. Throw it way up. Let's put together what we've got so far. So we've got the floor with a Varroa Mesh. We've then got the brood box. Now we're not going to make a queen excluder, but you might have your queen excluder on top of there next. Then we've got our supers. 1. 2. And on top of that, we've got our crown board. Go like that. Last but not least, you're going to need a roof to put on top of it. This is a really, really simple flat roof. Okay, no fancy joints, just really quickly made, really quite a simple one. we can make lots of different roofs. So we're going to make a gable roof in the future, things like that. But this is really simple, really cheap, really easy to make, really easy to replace if you need to as well. Okay, you see our beehive is coming together nicely. We've got the floor, we've got the brood box, we've got 2 supers, and we've got a crown board. What's left to complete this before we can go outside? We need a roof. And what I bought is a piece of folded galvanised steel, quite thin stuff actually, but folded to the right size. So this is going to go on here, and this will allow me about 18 mil all the way round. So we're going to rip ourselves some timber down now, we're going to plane it up, we're going to make ourselves a really simple roof. I'm not going to bother venting it, because the floor's vented in my hives, and basically when you put the crown board on top anyway, there's no ventilation there, so I don't really see the point in having those silly little vents in there. I may be wrong on that one, and I'm willing to be corrected, but I'm not going to put them in for now. We can always drill something in later. What I have got is, mine's going to be about 75 mil deep for the roof, because that's what timber I've got left from ripping down for the supers. So I think that'll work quite well. Okay, it's no longer 460 your measurement, so this has got to go round that 460, so it wants to be about 500. That gives the room around it to put it on. Easy mistake if you made it. Okay, so we'll go for square, and we're going to go for, we'll go for rebaited joints. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the router table up now. Drop that down. Gives a bit more glue in area. Yeah? Then to see how much we want left of our 500, put those 2 rivets together, slip our tape over like this, get to our 500, see what it says the other side, so that says 481. We'll cut them 481. Okay then, that's the case with a lot of this. Let's make sure you put plenty of glue on it. We could screw it rather than pinning it, but I'm going to pin it and just see how it lasts. I imagine screwing it would probably be better. It's not the deepest roof in the world. I've seen some deeper and some shallower. Let's get a piece of ply for the top. For the products I make, I tend to use 9mm ply, and I've had this piece of 1/2 inch kick around for ages, so it's perfect for the roof. We're just going to cut this 500 square. Nice and easy. I could even use my rail square actually. Let's measure it up. This square now. 3. We just put these around on the inside just to space the roof off a little bit. Potentially a little bit more strength. So there's our roof kind of finished. Let's try it on top of our brood box. That fits really nicely. It's not the deepest roof in the world, but it'll be fine. And then, we've obviously got this to go on as well. But I'm not going to fix this on just yet because we're going to paint this hive now. So in making sure that we treat this hive right, I want to paint it, and I'm going to paint it with linseed oil paint. Linseed oil paints are a lot more expensive, but they are better for the wood. They allow it to breathe. It's not like plastic paints that kind of trap the moisture in there, especially as we're only painting one side of the hive. We're not going to paint the inside. So I've got some good paint. We're going to give it a coat now and get this hive ready to go out. And then we can fix the roof on. Okay, so to paint these, I've moved it into the polytunnel. Linseed oil paint wants a bit of light to cure properly. And I've got this Ingleby's linseed oil paint. And what I've done, you can thin it down the first coat with a bit of terps, but instead there's another way of doing it. You can heat it up. So I've got this in an old casserole dish here, really rather hot with boiling water, and that just makes it flow just that little bit better. Already got some on my hands. So I've got this nice kind of green colour to it. I should probably decant it. It's quite a nice colour. And we're going to give everything a nice coat. And you want it to go quite, this first coat wants to go quite far. You want to try and spread it out as much as you can. Now I know the top of the roof doesn't actually need doing, but we'll do it anyway. Now the major downside is this takes a long time to dry. So we're talking at least 24 hours for the first coat, potentially more. And to cure it properly is going to be a couple of weeks. That's why in the polytunnel, it's not in my way. In the workshop or anything. It's down here, you can get plenty of light, a bit of air to it. I'm going to give it 2 or possibly 3 coats, depending on how it covers. It's expensive paint, but that has gone on lovely. I was kind of unsure whether I should just oil it or not. This paint is great. So my roof, very simple roof. There is much more complicated ones you can do, and much more complicated joints as well in the corners, but I'm hoping with this increased gluing area it should hold up alright. I've painted that all over, it's sealed the edges of the ply as well. Now it's just a simple fact of putting this on top. There are other roof coverings, obviously. You can buy tin and do it yourself. I mean, you can make it out of flash band if you're being cheaper. There's lots of ways that you can make a roof for a beehive like this. Let's see if I can get this on. Nice tight fit. There's dozens of roof coverings. You can cover it in copper, would look really nice, they're quite stealable. This, I think this bit of tin cost me about £8, so it's not huge amounts of money. I'm just going to staple it on now with some 18 gauge kind of staples fired out of this. It doesn't need much. I'm just going to put 2 in each side. That does give me the ability to take it apart in the future should I want to. That's 2. There we go. So we've painted our hive and we've got a nice roof for it. So let's go put it all together to see what it looks like. Last but not least, the one thing we do need, we need to keep our bees up off the ground. Keeps them away from predators, kind of lets airflow in. It just keeps it away from the wet as well, keeps it away from ants. Lots of positives to having your bees on a stand. This is my nice big fold-in beehive stand here that I made. This one will fit 3 hives comfortably, but I've made it for 2 with the idea that you can break apart a hive in the middle should you want to. Also allows your frames to fit in the middle should you want to do that as well when you're kind of sorting through and you want a bit of space. Really easy to make, really good way to save some money when you're beekeeping as well. The last thing you've got to do is make a stand for it to stand on. I want them to be about 16 inches off the ground, maybe, yeah, somewhere around that. I'm going to make a double hive stand so I can put 2 on it. I'm going to use some 4x2, and I'm going to make it a folding one because I've got a new apiary site which is going to be really, really nice to use, and I think it'd be really good to have some bees there as well as here. Kind of spread the risk a little bit, get some different flavored honey. It could be really good fun. What I want is enough space for the hive to be stepped in slightly, so I've got somewhere to hang frames should I want to. So about 6 inches in. Then we've got our 460 unit of a beehive, and then I want enough space in between there to be more than 460, so that when I'm doing an inspection, I can put the roof down and other stuff in between. So I'm going to do these about 8 foot long. Okay, we've got plenty of space. An 8 foot one with 2 hives on, I'd be fine. If it comes to it, could probably fit a third in the middle as well, but we'll see how things go, or a nuke or something like that. So, going to cut this down 8 foot. Going to make ourselves a little ladder frame of 460. Right, so let's get cutting this. Let's say 8 foot, probably 2.4 meters. Because these will be 4/8, not 16 foots. Because when it comes to imperial and metric, this country's a mess. Let it go, guys. Let it go. Imperial metric's better. Okay, then we want 460 in between. We want quite a few of these. So that's going to be 370. We're going to cut those. Next lot, 370. We're going to want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll do 6. We'll mark this up as we go. So we've got the 6 inches in, 150, and that'll be 1 there on the inside of that, and then from there, roughly 460, and that'll be on that side. And we'll do the same from the other side now. We've got 2 more in the middle then, should we want to put another hive in the middle of it all. Let's get some 4-inch screws for this. Now this is definitely easier than building a beehive. Okay, now I need to make some legs. So the legs are going on the outside. Let's cut one about 2 foot, just to try. And a little bit like a sawhorse, I'm going to want it to go out pretty much level with the end there, okay? And we're going to have that about there. So we're only going to guess it. That doesn't look far off to me. I reckon about that kind of angle. 2 degrees. Very imprecise way of measuring this, but I work it a little bit higher because I'm quite tall. My girls are a little bit shorter. This is going to be the out apiary, so I don't know how much they're going to be doing. So I'm thinking we'll have about 18 inches, something like that. We'll cut this one, see what it looks like. Right, so we need 4 of them, and then 4, which will take it from this outside point to an outside point on the other leg as well. So we need 4 of those as well to kind of make the little legs up. So let's cut those up. I need to get some more at the shed, and it is absolutely tipping it down. So we're going to make the legs now. I have one piece near the bottom, not on the bottom, and then one piece up near the top. To be honest, I probably could have gone for 2x2 for this. Might be a bit overkill. So if we go, say 70mm up. Okay, now the job is to find that point really. Let's go a little bit more. You just mark a hole in the middle of this, somewhere near the middle anyway. And the same in this as well. Now what we've got, come over here, have a look. Got some nice chunkable coach bolts to go through. They are, I think, 12mm. Now this isn't going to be perfect, it's not in the pillar drill. There'll be somewhere near. We'll make it work. Need to do the same on the other side now. Put a locking nut on this. A 19mm spanner. Got one of these great ratchet spanners. There we go. Okay, this is definitely where I could have gone with a bit of a lighter timber, but I've cut the 4x2 now, so might as well go in. So these ones will go here to stop the legs going down too far. So if we mark it up like that, then we fold it over. We should be able to do the same for both. Fold this one over as well. There is a bit of twist in my timber, so I'm not saying it's going to sit perfectly flat to start with. Okay, so let's try it out. It is absolutely chucking it down. I will try it outside later. But let's try it inside for now. Move my stuff out of the way. How we do? Fold open these legs. That's a tight. This side too. Bit like a sawhorse. Solid as a rock. Let's go put it up outside tomorrow. Okay, so there we go. The hive stand is made. Really pleased with this. Nice and big. Got plenty of space to work on there. Can fit 3 hives comfortably, but also can have 2 on either side and allow you to work on in the middle of them. Also, bit I wanted. It takes my frames, so you can put a frame or 2 down there as you're sorting through the hive, not having to put them on the floor, which I would absolutely hate to do. So it kind of keeps it up and rested away. And like I said, enough space in the middle to do that. Folds up as well, so easier to get to site. Okay, so I've got a hive stand down here. Let's get this hive together and see what it looks like. Obviously, first things first, from part 1 is the floor. You'll set this one in the middle for now. Next up, we're going to have a brood box, and you can set this warm or cold way, but we'll do it this way around. Now you might have the queen board in between there. We haven't got one of those at the moment. Next, we're going to put on some supers. Crown board and the roof. There we have a beehive we've completely made ourselves. Obviously we need to get some frames in there with foundation, but that is ready to go for next year, ready to keep some bees in it, and I'm really looking forward to it. Making a beehive yourself is really rewarding. There's no two ways about it. You kind of get a massive sense of achievement. I can't wait to be getting some honey out of this beehive next year, well, or the year after. We'll see how it goes, but it's going to be really fun to do. And it also means we can build up our stock of beehive equipment so we can manipulate our bees in different ways and not have to worry about kind of running out of space, which can often be the problem with beekeeping. I would say that economically, it's probably not worth building your own, depending on what you want, unless you want something special. This National Hive would be cheaper if I bought it as a kit from Fawns or somewhere like that. It'd be far cheaper to buy it as one in cedar than I can make it for. Especially if you took my hours into account, then it's going to be way cheaper. But the only things that are cheaper to make, I'd say making your own floors, that's a cost saving, you know, and you can make them easier than I've made this, to be honest with you. This is quite a fancy one with planed wood. You can make it rough sawn, not a problem. You can make it as an underfloor entrance, keep the wasps and the mice out, might even be better as well. The roof is also worth making yourself, really cheap. This bit of tin you can buy online, ready folded at that size, and it costs about 12 quid. It's not huge amounts of money, and the rest of the timber can be just what's kicking around. It's not going to break the bank, that isn't. The other thing is the hive stand, definitely worth making those yourself. Make them to your own specifications, what you want, where you want them, make them fold in or not. You know, this is just a timber one. You can also do it on blocks. You know, you can make them as hard or as easy as you want them to be. You know, give yourself somewhere to strap the hives down so that in high winds they can be strapped down. This has got 3 places where that can happen. The things that aren't worth making yourself, brood boxes and supers, probably just not worth it. There's a lot of effort in making those. There's lots of joints. You have to be quite precise with them. You need a lot of woodworking equipment. I'm lucky I've got all that, you know, and I've got 22 years as a carpenter, and I still found them to be, you know, quite involved to make. You think you've almost finished and there's another bit to make all the time. And how much I can buy them for. I can buy a brood box or a super in the sales in seconds. I can buy it for what I can get the timber for to make my own in pine, and that's in cedar. So, you know, if you add these things up, it's not really worth making my own. But there is a certain satisfaction into making it yourself, and I like the idea of having an apiary where I've made everything, and I know I can fix it, I know I can make it. That's quite nice. But yeah, thanks for watching this whole video. It means the world to me if you've watched it. It really does mean the world to me. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Let me know what you want me to build. I'll build it.